Yo, 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 welcome back to another episode of On the Spot Sports. And before we get to our guest today, we have a big shout out for Living Sisu. Living Sisu is a platform and app that wants to give you all the tools to have success in your sport. Their main objective is to activate your lifestyle. So it's for active people. Enjoy discounts at companies like BioSteel, 30% off, Body Logics, the Goalie Guild, all his books are discounted. Roan, Lululemon for men, 20% off, online stretching programs with Eccentrics, 1 full month free. They got super silent massage guns, 20% off those. And it's a great quality. It's way less expensive than a Theragun, and it's great quality. So there's so many more discounts that you guys will need to just become a member to see. So they want to provide you with anything you need for success. So come join the community. I'm a part of it. A bunch of other athletes are a part of it. So it's free to join. It takes 20 seconds to get exclusive offers to your sport, and it's definitely worth it. So do us a huge favor and go sign up for Living Sisu's membership. It's free, takes 20 seconds. So go do it, and we'll see you there. Living Sisu is a great company. We know one of the co-founders, Zach Fricali. He's a great guy. He's the co-founder. He does a lot of live streams on Instagram at Living Sisu, and with a bunch of elite athletes, and you learn a lot from like the athletes' determination, their resiliency, everything to what made them become successful. So it's been a great experience so far. So go on. I'm gonna leave the link in the description. So go sign up. Yo, welcome back to another episode of On Spot Sports. I'm Jack, and in today's episode, it's gonna be a great one. We have a very special guest co-host, as you could say. We got semi-professional goaltender, goalie coach, good friend of the show, Aaron Shields on. So, Aaron, great to have you on as a special guest co-host. How's everything with you?
Oh man, Decky, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. I mean, I'd never think that I'd still be doing podcasts, but I admire what you do. Thanks for having me on. And life's been good, man. Just bunch of work, Monday through Friday. I got back into some goalie coaching myself a little bit. I'm actually coaching a couple 13, 14 U's right now, goaltenders. So they're working out pretty well, and I think their parents are loving the coaching style, and all I can do is just give them my best week in, week out. So
yeah, that's all you can do. I appreciate the kind words and everything, and you're welcome back on the show anytime. So it's good to get you back on. But like you said, with goalie coaching, like you got right back into goalie coaching. So like, how's everything with being a goalie coach again, and like having like the 13, 14 U like be like your main like clientele, I guess you could say?
I mean, honestly, like, at the end of the day, it's it's kind of like, I don't know how I can describe it. It's challenging in some ways. And 13 to 14s, I mean, they have a big learning curve, right? So for me to kind of like, adapt and teach them in the right way, they learn quick and they don't learn quick. It just depends, it depends on, the day, depends on their mood, right? So,
Yeah.
But overall, I think I like one of them right now. He's doing fairly well. His name's Gavin. Good kid. His dad Heath, mom Sherry. I mean, they're great folks, good people. But he's struggling a little bit with edge work and skating. But as far as tracking the puck and finding it, that's where he's actually getting strong. So
Yeah, I feel like that 13 and 14 range is like where you start like getting to like really understand like the game of goaltending, just like especially like because younger you just do it just to like go back to the basics and all that, and then as you get older you can start like focusing on a little bit more on like edge work and skating, and then as well as just like them having the ability to like absorb everything like that you're teaching them, because like especially like when you do get like a lot of information from your goalie coach, like it could be sometimes a lot to handle, but like as you get
Right.
older, like that's when you're able to just process everything a little bit faster, and just to be able to put everything into what you've been doing into like a game situation.
Right. And I think, and what you just said, to add on, I try to break it down for him like as simple as possible. So like, he was struggling with like putting it into his own mind. So like there's some kids that are like, they're photogenic with their mind. So they want to see like the gear on their coach, or like the gear in action, to where like they can learn easier. So I've had to strap on the pads a couple times. But as soon as he sees, what the pad's doing, what the skate's doing, and seeing, all of it come together, as a 13-year-old, I mean, like, I don't blame him, like, and there's some kids that are like that, it's, and that's the thing is like, I think honestly, not just myself, but coaches all around, like just not, in Colorado, but all around the whole world, so many different kids learn different ways. Right. And so, I kind of break it down and I ask him myself, I'm like, hey, what works for you? What works for you easier, better? What's going to help to make you more productive in the 1 hour? So we only do 1 hour sessions. What helps you? And he told me, he's like, hey, I'd actually like to see, the pads, on you, to see what it looks like. And I'm like, all right, cool. We'll do it that way. We did a couple sessions with the pads on. We've done a couple sessions, or a few, with just me taking shots at them. But I like to be more engaged and more, just on level with my with my kids, and hopefully help them, just get better. And whether it's me putting the pads on, or just taking shots on them, or whatever it may be, I kind of engage in a different way with each person. So
Yeah, and like you don't want to change what they've been doing, like their like stance or their former, unless like unless like it creates bad habits. You want to at least go down on those and just like explore like what you can do to help yourself get good habits. But like you don't want to like change anything completely, because that's gonna just not be productive for either you or the kid you're coaching, because like
right.
it's just you just want to get them comfortable, and then like do everything that like you're teaching, and just see how they do and like what their productive level is
Right.
like.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. And I think honestly, like, like I had the privilege and the honor. So it's a very short amount of time, but I was actually the goalie coach for the Colorado Warriors here locally in Colorado. But we took a trip to Texas. I met Mike McKenna. Dude, super cool cat, very down to earth, very just approachable, start
Goaltending
talking
legend too.
goaltending. What's that?
Goaltending legend.
Oh, dude, yeah, goal. Just and he did a pod on Spin Chickets, and he was like, he said something along the lines of, he's like, I was with, more teams than I was, with, anyone in my whole career. Is like 17 years. I was with, 14 teams, 15 teams, or something like that. And I was like, honestly, like, and that was kind of like myself, right? Like I spent 6 years, almost 7 years, MWHL hockey, semi-pro, but I was with 5, almost 6 different teams. And, in not including like, 7 for teams that, were out of state, or, they went out of state and needed a goalie. And so, like I did that for Vegas. I did that for Boulder Bison, but it was here locally when they played against Vail. I was their backup and the starting goalie a few times. But, that kind of helped me a little bit, because like, I took that experience and that education of what's going to help me. Right. And so every game that I started, or even just let alone backed up, right? So the last time, I think the last series, when I called it an official careers with the Texas Barracudas, or formerly known as Fort Worth Barracudas, they're in Breckenridge, and their GM, Rob, hit me up, called me, and said, hey, we'll be in Breckenridge. Obviously, that, because I know their schedule. I still talk to some of their guys on the team. he's like, you know, if you want to come through and, you know, be our backup. I'm like, sure. I even text him back. It's like, hey, you know, I appreciate the voicemail. I accept the offer. You know, I'll come back you guys up. I was like, don't expect me to start or be in relief for the starting goalie, Josh Messick. Cause I was like, I'm kind of old. I'm kind of dog shit, but I'll show up and I'll be there. So, you know what I mean? But no, I mean, I just, every experience that I, you know, whether I'm starting or backing up, I always pay attention to the game. I pay attention to, you know, the weaknesses of our team, the weaknesses of the opponent, and our strength as well, right? So I like to learn. I'm always about learning, and you know, a little footnote or side note is, you know, what Justin Goldman is doing with the goaltending retreat that they do in Breckenridge every year.
Yeah.
I think it's great. I mean, I've been to that arena, Stephen West Arena, plenty of times in my day, and I think it's a good location, and I think it's a great experience for up and coming goaltenders, or, you know, even veterans of the game. So
Yeah, and just like going back to like coaching, all that, like a lot of the kids, like it's like they want to be somewhere, like they look a couple steps ahead and not just focus on like the present. So like they miss like the journey to like, and like everyone says, not about like it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. And I feel like kids a lot of the time like miss out on that, and like they just want to get to like a place like the highest level, but like they don't have to go through like all the mini steps to get to there on their journey. But like to like be in the present mind and just like embrace the grind, embrace getting up at 6 a.m. every day, whatever it is, to go on the ice, work out, and like
yeah,
just envision like that success leading up to like where you want to be is just as important as just like trying to just embrace the grind and go through the grind in the process.
right. No, 100%. And that goes along with, you know, exactly what I was about to say, is that, like, you know, nowadays, you know, there's so many different avenues of the journey, right?
Yeah.
But like the kids don't really like understand like what it takes, like the hard work, the dedication, you know, when I was in high school, we had 5 a.m. skates, 5 to 6:15. You take a shower, your, you know, parents would come to pick you up, you're at school by 7:45. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's you know, and they'll figure it out, obviously, right? So I mean, like high school hockey, obviously it's a big thing here in Colorado. You know, the schedules of, like, you know, club hockey, you know, local Arvada, Highland Hills, they you know, it's the same thing. Their
Yeah.
practices are early and those kids will figure it out. But at the end of the day, it's all about the dedication, the hard work, and you know, how bad do you want it, you know? So
Yeah, and there's going to be highs, there's going to be lows, there's going to be adversity you have to face. If you're dedicated and you're willing to go through all that and like the grind, because it's nothing's easy, especially trying to get to the top, the best level you can. Like you got to embrace the grind, you got to go through the process, and you just got to have that determination, competitiveness, and battle as well.
right, no, absolutely, yeah. It's you know, my 13-year-old right now, Gavin, he's I think he's learning that. You know, like we burned him up pretty good 3 weeks ago, and if we did like a Tuesday, Wednesday back-to-back session, or hour per day, you know, obviously, and that's after my day, right? So like my day
Yeah.
starts 5 a.m. I go to work. I'm at work by 6:15. I get up at 3 o'clock, sometimes 2:30, and then, you know, I drive an hour and a half up north to Greeley, and we hop on the ice for an hour, and then, you know, I'm home. And, you know, the grind, in my opinion, is just a whole outlook of how bad do you want it, right? Like I told him, I was like, you know what, hey, you know, 13 years old, you're a kid, you're having fun, you know, hang out with your friends, summertime, you have no school, it's great. But I told him, and I told his dad, I was like, hey, you know, like, you know, it's going to come down to you know, to the fall, winter, where you're going to be in school. You got to remember what we worked on, you know, do your proper etiquette of, you know, taking care of yourself, hydrate properly. But, you know, I was like, when you add school and then you add the training in, it's going to be a whole different ballgame. Like, he's summertime, he's got all day to hang out, relax, chill. But, you start involving coaching, your school, keeping up with that, making sure that, you have good grades, but you kind of have to combine both of them. And I think he's understanding it, but as soon as he gets into it to where it's like we're doing sessions twice a week or 3 times a week, and then he's adding on school, he'll figure it out. I think he'll learn it. But I mean, like I said, going back to, I'm trying to adapt with all my goaltenders in a different way, right? Because everyone has a different way, a different philosophy of learning and understanding the game and understanding, what you need to do in the crease. Like I told Gavin, like if you're in the crease, you have a 6x4, that's your job. And your job is to stop the puck. There's nothing else that you need to worry about. You got to take off your friend cap, your skull cap, put your goalie cap on, and and with me, back then, like I was able to do that. But nowadays, there's social media, there's cell phones, and the different influences of what's the word of just learning different ways, I guess. And I mean, but at the end of the day, I firmly believe that a lot of goaltending academies or coaches, they like to have just one vision and one simple way of coaching. And for me, I like to do it a different way with every single person, right? So I want to adapt with my athletes. I want to adapt with my goaltenders, but I'm doing it in a very different, methodical way to where each one will understand in their own vision, but I have to break it down in different ways for them to understand that. So
Yeah, and it's just like you're taking it to like a personal level and like
exactly.
just making it like making like your goalies like trust you and like you trust and like build that trust between both coach and athlete. And like it goes a long way, like especially like when like there's a bunch of other like aspects outside of goaltending, like you said, like friends, school, homework, social media now. Like you just got to have like that trust within like the coach to athlete to make sure that you're doing everything right and just trying to apply everything you've learned from your coach and from your athlete as well.
Absolutely. And I think most of my parents are actually very understanding, and they actually agree that and they've seen it because I've already had a couple parents come up to me and say, hey, like, for what you charge and for you to stoop down to the level of like a personal understanding with my child, like they're like, no one else in the state of Colorado is going to do that, first of all. And second of all is that they like to do the quantity and not the quality, right? Yeah. So, I don't like big groups more than 3. There's a lot of goaltending academies that do like 8 group, or 8 skaters, 8 goalies per session, right? And I think you're not really adapting and you're not connecting with that goaltender on a not only a personal level, but like an understanding level of, why do we do what we do in the crease and what's the purpose of it, right? So there's an action, and to the action is going to be a result or a consequence, whether it's good or bad. But I think, getting to that level of understanding that goaltender just one-on-one is what I envision. And I think that's what I've envisioned my whole life. And now, doing it, part-time, obviously, but doing it consistently week in, week out. It's pretty special to see these kids grow up and see them get way better than when I had them. So
yeah, and like going over like quality over quantity, like that's huge. Like that's something like I've learned through coaching, and just especially like this year, like being like on the ice in the summer. Like I used to always think, yeah, I have to be on the ice 24/7 or like 5 6 7 days a week. But like now, like that's what I was doing in the winter. But like now, like during the summer, I'm on the ice 3 maybe 4 times a week, and like I feel so much better, and like it just takes a little less like pressure off your body, especially since goaltending is a very tough position and tough on your body. So like anytime you can get that rest day and just maybe do a workout off the ice and not skate for a day. Like
Right.
it's better than just pressing, pushing your body to different limits, where especially during the off season.
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree with that. And, that's why I do most of the time I do like a back to back, like a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Wednesday, Thursday, because, I also tell these kids that, like, stretching, hydrating, preparing yourself, it's very important. It's crucial. And, if somebody would have told me that when I was 15, 16 years old, then, I would have been all about it. But then it was more like, you know, reps, 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 work, 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 grind, grind, grind. And the whole idea is, it's ideal, right? But then it's not ideal on the body, right? So like I want my goaltenders to get some rest. I want them to, rehab. They're young, they're fit, they're, in their prime. Obviously they're not boozing or, hitting the bars with the boys. But I tell Gavin, especially after every session, go home, stretch, take a shower, get a good meal in. And I think so far, the goalies that I'm coaching from 13 to 15, 16, they're adapting pretty well. And I can see it because the way that they play and the way that their crease work is and their edge work and the way that they track the puck. I mean, they're getting better week in and week out, right? And I don't want to give them a compliment or tell them you're getting better because it's going to get to the head, obviously, right?
Yeah.
But I tell them during the session, on good drills and good saves, I'm like, good job, but I want to see the progress and I want to see it every 2 or 3 months. And then at that point, then I'll tell them, hey, great job. You're looking a lot better. I take old videos, I take new videos. And so far they're, especially Gavin's looking a lot better than when I got him. So.
Yeah, and that's awesome to see, especially as a coach, when like you like week to week you see that progression, just like especially for like a quality like practice. Like for me, like I was 10 to 15 minutes when I get on the ice is skating, and then 30 minutes just like reps, quality reps too, and it's not about quantity, it's about quality there, and then
Yep.
conditioning after, and like that's 50 minutes to an hour and you're done, and you get so much out of that. And then you have the rest of the day to, like you said, stretch, hydrate, do anything you can to help support the body.
Absolutely. Anything you do, whether it's a good meal, a good hour of straight water. I mean, anything you can do is it's gonna help you for sure. It's gonna go a long way. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And just, I know we talked about skating earlier. So like one of the most underrated things as a goalie is skating and edge work. And like, it's like, what do you see with your goalies that with skating and edge work, and like, how do you like progress to make their skating and edge work a lot better than they started off with?
I mean, so with that, like it really depends, honestly. When it comes down to it, sometimes I get goalies that, their edge work and their stick work is absolutely phenomenal. And then we get to the crease and they can't stop a puck, right? So, or, you get a goalie, their edge work is shit and their stick work is out of control and they don't know what they're doing. But then they get the crease, a 6x4, and they can stop anything that's getting thrown at them. So, like I said, it depends on who I get. But I emphasize stick work and edge work appropriately, depending on the goalie. But we do edge work and footwork for a straight hour. I tell my goalies, depending on what I see after the first session, you may not see any rubber. You may not even I won't even have a stick, right? But we'll work on edge work, footwork. And I think honestly, like the C cuts, we do some open ice mohawks. We do some T pushes into a butterfly situation, and we just ride the blue line and we just do reps to and from boards, side to side. And if you implement a C cut with a T push, I think these young goaltenders, because nowadays, like I don't know, I may be wrong, which I'm wrong quite a bit, but in Colorado especially, like I don't see a lot of goalie coaches or even let alone academies doing footwork, edge work, right? And I think that's where we're different, because in North America, in my opinion, we're all about saves, reps. And then over in Europe, it's like footwork, edge work, move, get around the crease as quick as possible. And that's where I think that's why, most of our goalies in North America were struggling, is because, they're not quick enough. They don't know what the skate's going to do, what the blade's going to do, how it feels, the proper technique, the posture, an up and down body with your hands out, 24/7 while you do, edge work and footwork. So I try to implement everything appropriately depending on my goaltender. But I think, nowadays, if you obviously anyone can, make a stop or try to stop a puck, but getting around in the crease as quickly as possible is all about footwork. So
Yeah, and like if you look at like NHL right now, like the best guys with skate work, with good footwork and good edges, is a European goalie. And just like you see it like on like YouTube now, like you just see like a bunch of like these European style like goalies or like goalie coaches that have like put it on their channel, and it's just guys doing footwork, guys doing edge work for an hour, just hours and hours and hours, and just you can tell that they're a step ahead of the play every single time that the puck's in their zone. Their edge work and their footwork is phenomenal.
Yeah. I mean, you saw the world, or the what was that, the World Cup, I think, just recently. I mean, and you look at, for example, I haven't been much of a follower of Latvian goaltenders, but you look at Elvis Merzlikins from Columbus, and every move that he had in the crease when he played every single game was T pushes, C cuts, and just a power momentum of just like him opening his hips, and he's literally T pushing everywhere. And his shuffle game isn't very strong, because I like this a lot about him, is that he doesn't rely on a shuffle. He relies on a T push, right? With left to right, or a T push off the post up to the top of the crease. Like, that is the definition of edge work and footwork that I think North American goaltenders are lacking tremendously on. And they're only taught how to stop a puck. But that's where I go back to what I just said previously, is that I think we need to start implementing the footwork, the edge work, with tracking the puck and making the stop. So it's not really frustrating, but it's, that's where I'm trying to change the game up a little bit. And that's my coaching style, is, because I'm all about I think T pushes look so aggressive. They look so good when they're done correctly. Yeah. And I'm a big advocate of the T push. I love my C cuts. I'm getting a little bit older. I'm getting a little more chunkier. So I do the 2-step shuffles every now and then, but going left to right, from right wing to left wing, or left wing to right wing, I'm a huge T push guy. So.
Yeah, and like when you go up the levels, like you see it like in the NHL, AHL now, like once the play is like moves a lot faster, like if you're set, you have a pretty good chance. You have a really good chance of stopping that puck.
Right. No, absolutely. I mean, for example, I think that's where we lost. So the Eagles played the Stockton Heat, and their starting goalie was Dustin Wolf, I believe. And that guy, he's not tall, right? He's only like 6 foot, maybe 5'11", but dude, his edge work is just absolutely it's dialed. And I was actually pretty sad that they didn't go deeper in the Calder Cup finals, but they look good. Their goaltending looked great. But that goes along with the skater, right? Skaters do a lot of edge work, a lot of inside-outside edge work, but that has to be implemented for goaltenders, because if the goalies don't get the footwork, the edge work, I think that's the biggest fall, the biggest letdown, honestly. So.
Yeah, and like a good point to bring up Dustin Wolf, because I saw him when he advanced to the conference finals and faced my Wolves, and like just seeing him during pregame warmups, like everything's done with intention. Doesn't matter if it's warmups or in the middle of the game. Like his edge work, his T pushes, shuffles, everything's done with intention, which that's huge. Like he's not a big goalie. He's like 6', 5'11", like you said, but like if you have that edge work and everything's done with intent, like you don't know what's in store for you.
Yeah, he's one of the goalies that I definitely like. I think he's got a good shot to making the show this year. That's for sure. And like our goalie used to standing in with the Eagles. I mean, I'm not a big fan of him, right? Because I think he's set in his own ways. But when it comes to making a big stop, making a stop with no rebounds, that's where he's good at. But I've seen him play plenty of times already now here in Colorado, and I think they definitely can get a little bit better with their edge work. So.
And just to have 3 shutouts from Dustin Wolf in 4 games, like that just proves to how good he is and how bright of a future he has.
Oh yeah, he'll make it. He'll be all right.
Yeah, absolutely. But to move on to the NHL, your Colorado Avalanche won the Stanley Cup this year. So talk about the Avs a little bit, and like, will the Stanley Cup make it out of Colorado? Like, it's been dropped so many times already.
I don't think it will. So a buddy of mine, he was actually at one of their post parties. So they flew back from Tampa. They landed, on Monday morning or whatever, and then he went to one of their private parties or whatever. And so, obviously the McDermott video where he fell on his ass, and then Obe Kubel is just crushing the pot or the cup on the ice when they first get it. And then he sent me a video of my DMs, and I couldn't really pick out who it was because, they're in street clothes and I know they're getting after it, but they had the cup, right? And they're chugging out of it, beer or whatever, out of the Lord Stanley. And they basically, I think one of the guys is holding on to it from what I could see. And he probably caught a beer drop on the cup, and it slipped out of his hands and it landed right on the floor. I'm like, dude, this cup is not going to make it alive out of Colorado. I was like, there's not a goddamn chance this thing's going to make it. But no, it's good to see, and and to have the privilege of seeing the cup 3 times now. I've been to all 3 parades. It's an honor. I mean, it's probably the best and greatest trophy that anyone can win in professional sports. And I'll send you a video later. As I was at the parade, and Mikko Rantanen's on the edge of the fire truck, and his mom's holding his jersey, so he doesn't fall off. And somebody threw a beer up to him, and he caught it right at the edge of the fire truck. I'm like, dude, this guy's gonna tip over and fall off the goddamn truck. That's how bad it looked, right? And so he throws up his sweater over his face. He beer loses it through his sweater, and then throws the can up, and his mom watches the thing so it doesn't smoke him in the head. And he was asking for more. He was just doing one of these, and he was what's going on? Who's got more beer? And I had beers on me, but they're glass bottles, so I don't think that would have worked out very well. But yeah, dude, I mean, these guys are crushing it. They deserved it. They worked their ass off for it. I've been to more than a handful of their practices because I've got a pretty good schedule where I can split away from work and watch their practices. But having them be, exited, second rounds, first round, I believe. And then, going back to what McKinnon said last year, he's I've almost been here 9 years and I haven't won a fucking thing. You know what I mean? And so I think adding Stern, Manson, Cogliano, Jack Johnson is obviously one of the most underrated guys on our team, I believe. And, everyone else, you get your other guys like McDermott, you get, Bo Byram, Cobell, you get Sammy G obviously in there helping out the back end. And, that just goes to show that in the NHL, it's a regular season of 82 games, right? But you need depth, and the depth is what's going to carry you through the playoffs. And I think now teams are finally understanding that, because the kids nowadays, dude, they're like 18 through 19 through 20, 21 years old. And, these old guys are just like, we didn't have this back then, right? Like it was like, they wanted you to stay in the minors. They wanted you to develop. They wanted you to, learn. And now it's like, GMs and coaches and goaltending coaches, like they're like, we're just gonna throw them in the fire. And sometimes it's gonna fucking burn you, or sometimes it's gonna teach you you're gonna win games. But
Yeah.
I like the way that the game is going. Obviously, everyone's like, take the fighting out. Well, that's never gonna fucking happen. Like, if you cross check somebody in a dirty way, you're gonna have to answer the bell, and that's just the way it's gonna be. And this, if you don't like it, then you can fuck right off. Honestly, it's not soccer, it's not softball, it's not tennis. Like, this is a sport. It's a man sport, right? And even with me when I was playing semi-pro, like, I gave it to guys. They want to slash me after I cover a puck, I'm gonna slash them right back. And that's the thing, is that like there's no more like heart, there's no more like grit, you know what I mean? And I think, the show wants to take the fighting and the aggressiveness out of it, but at the end of the day, that's what makes hockey so important. I'm like, dude, I mean, look at the Eagles. They were in the ECHL for so long, right? And then they moved up to the A. Now in the AHL, you don't really see a lot of that. But in the ECHL, dude, they had 6-7 fights a game. Like, I was there. I saw firsthand with Bootland, Zims, Saunders was their starting goaltender at the time, and then they had a couple others. They had Kanata in there as well. Obviously, my good buddy Karzi's, been to that level. He's played against the Eagles plenty of times, but those ECHO games is the heart and the grit of the sport. Like, that is what's made of hockey. You got to fight. You got to fucking fight, whether you like it or not. And I think, at the end of the day, I think the NHL is, trying to push it, and I don't think it's not going to go anywhere. But back to the Avalanche, I mean, they have depth. They got it done finally, and I think they're going to go third round next year, and I hope they don't get eliminated, but I think they'll go third round and get eliminated in the Western Conference Finals. So.
Yeah, but at least you were able to witness them win it this year, and like the 3 other times before, and like just like from like the 2 other wins, like you could just realize that the depth is a lot more important than it ever was, because you see teams now that have depth their first 2 lines, and they don't have any depth the rest of the way, and then that burns them in the playoffs. But like, if you have depth, then you're able to go with anyone, literally top to bottom. Like, those are the teams that compete for a Stanley Cup, and like the Avs did. Like, they had so much depth, like that you could just tell that they're a cup winning team.
Oh no, absolutely. And I think that's where, like, we made it past, and then we made it past Nashville. I mean, shocker. I said they would sweep when they swept them. I had them sweeping the Blues. They won in 5 games, I believe. I think 5 or 6 games. And then everyone's like, "Oh, Edmonton, McDavid, they don't have a chance." I'm like, "Buddy, you do not realize Edmonton doesn't have 4 solid lines. Like, they have, in my opinion, they had like Yamamoto. He was out. He could have been a big influence, right?
Yeah.
But they only had at the time Draisaitl, who was injured most of the series. They had McDavid, and then they had that fucking guy. Can't even think right now, but he's Pulivari. He was good. Darnell Nurse, he was playing hurt. They had a third guy, Nugent Hopkins. He was pretty solid in that series, but you can't rely on 3 guys, especially when 2 out of the 3 are hurt, and I feel like McDavid is just like where McKinnon is. He's been with Edmonton for almost 8 years now and going on 8th year, and he hasn't won a fucking thing. Like, you know what I mean? And at this point, it's either he's going to ask for a trade, or they got to make some serious moves, and they've got to get rid of. Obviously, they've already got rid of Koskinen. Their backup goalie is going to Europe, right? And so it's like, okay, well, Smith is going to be done. Like, you're not going to. I wouldn't think they would keep him, but they might. You never know. But Koskinen's gone. you've seen all these backup goalies through the show, this off season, they're all going to Europe. You know what I mean? And like, I felt bad for our backup goalie, Hunter Miska, and with the Eagles, he's going to Europe because, I think they want to develop and they want to get better. And the only way is to find another premier European league. Right. And then they come back to the States and grind it out and hopefully get a starting spot. But, it's crazy. Money's, money and draft picks are going a long way nowadays. And, I'm excited. We got the same core, almost the same core coming back. We just signed Cogliano. We signed a big one with Gorgiev. I think Gorgiev is going to be a rock solid. I was never a fan, and even my closest friends and my family know, like, I was never a Grubauer guy. Couldn't stand him as far, like, he's probably a good guy off the ice, right? But as far as goaltending, wasn't a fan. Wasn't a big fan of Kemper at all. I mean, everyone's like, oh, well, some fans are like, oh, well, he got it done. No, the offense got it done. And he let in a dog shit goal, and then the offense had to come back and score a goal for his dog shit goal. So I haven't been a fan of the goaltenders as of recent with the Avalanche, but I think Gorgiev is going to have a rock solid year. And I can't wait to see what his true pads are going to look like with the Avalanche colors. So I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, and like, you guys are coming back with a lot of depth, so they could go deep in the playoffs again. Maybe not back to back, but that'd be cool to see another back to back. But you never know what's going to happen during the season, but I'm sure they're gonna have a super solid season.
No, absolutely. And I think, obviously, like, we're keeping Frankie, got another couple years, and Gorgiev's coming on board. And I've just been more like I don't know, not much of a Canadian US goalie guy. I've been always like a European, Russian goaltender kind of guy. Like, I like their style, like the way they play, like how aggressive they are. I mean, like I said, going back to talking about Merzlikins and how he moves in the crease, and he's Latvian, right? He's from Europe. And I was talking to one of my good friends, obviously, Keatsy with Between the Pipes podcast, right? And, the European goaltending style is so like dynamic, and it's so quick, and it's so efficient, right? And I preach that to my goalies, is that, like, I want you to be efficient, not only, work, but be efficient where you're not wasting a stop, you're not wasting a movement on trying to find the puck. And I'm glad Gorgiev was with us. I think he's actually Bulgarian. He's got a double citizenship, I think, dude. He's got like a Russian and a Bulgarian. He's from Bulgaria, but he's double or dual citizenship in both countries, I believe. So, but yeah, I'm excited, man. I can't wait to see him, out there in the ice with the boys. And then obviously, like, with our goaltending coach with the Avalanche. Yeah, I think he's going to develop very well, and he's young too, right? So, like, and everyone's like, oh, well, he's shit. Like, I'm like, yeah, he's shit when he hasn't played for 2 or 3 weeks. If you give him a back-to-back, or even give him like a starting goalie spot night in, night out, and he's playing every other game, or playing every game consecutively, I think he's going to do just fine. I think he's going to be solid. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I just looked up Gorgiev, and he's Bulgarian born, but he's also Russian as well. So there you go.
Yeah. Boom. Nailed it. Big stat guy.
There we go. Big, huge stat guy.
Stat guy.
Oh yeah. But in game 4 of the cup final, the Avs, Nazem Kadri got that game winner in overtime with the weird scenario. So, like, what do you think of that game?
I mean, as far as like I've said, I can say it to you, I can say it to any podcast. I mean, as far as like leading up to the whole fallout or the whole incident with Binnington, Binnington needs to fucking buckle down and quit being a goddamn pussy, because he won a cup, great, congratulations, but like, when the times get tough, you need to be tougher, right? And yeah, injuries are a big deal. Like, they set you back, they get you out, and obviously he was out the rest of the series. But it's like that's where, like, look at Kemper. Kemper took a stick to the face, right? And he came back, but I don't know how to explain it. It's just like, dude, like, Kadri went in for a puck, right? It went off Bennington's shoulder. It fell 2-3 feet in front of him. And then what do you think in a playoff game? What do you think you're going to expect? Like somebody not going for the rebound, right? Like that. And that's exactly what he did, but he collided with a St. Louis Blues player.
Yeah.
And so like the whole sequence of how everything developed and how it all transpired, like, it's unfortunate Bennington went out. Obviously he's a good goalie. He's, one of the best in the show, right? But, it's like we don't need it in the sport to have players, or not players, but like fans of the game that don't even understand. Like there's a game behind the game, and there's like unwritten rules that you don't really know because you've never played the fucking game. But like you don't need to attack somebody and say like you're a fucking Arab, like you don't belong in the sport, this and that. Like I think that's like one of the most disheartening things is like to go after somebody, and then on top of that, go after his family, right? His wife, his kid. Like, dude, if you do that, you're probably the biggest piece of shit in the world, and you should never have an NHL right to go watch a game. Like, you're a complete fucking joke. And so, at the end of the day, it's unfortunate, but hey, I mean, that's the sport. That's I mean, you could have said that about Edmonton running Markstrom, 4 or 5 times in the whole series, right? But they didn't bitch about it because, in Canada, they know that's like part of the game. I mean, there's people that, criticize, what had happened between Edmonton and Calgary, but dude, like, that's also Battle of Alberta. Like, that's, what do you think? I mean, it's a what is that? It's an underrated rivalry. Like, I mean, it's
for one of the best rivalries right now in the show.
Oh, absolutely. Hands down, 100%. And it's like, dude, like, you didn't hear nothing about Martian being ran over, right? But you heard the only Arabian Muslim player in the show running Bennington, and it's all of a sudden a big deal. It's like, dude, get the fuck over yourself. Like it was sad to see that, societies would go that low and do something very stupid or say something very stupid. But at the same time, it's 2022, it's post COVID, and there's a lot of hate, but fuck him. What Kadri said, they can all kiss his ass now. He won a cup. So
at the end of the day, like you have to go, you could be mad at someone, sure, but like to go low and like go after like family or anything like that, like you like that's just uncalled for and doesn't need to be in any game, any sport, or like in any everyday life. Like that just should not happen.
Absolutely, 100%. And yeah, I mean, St. Louis, we'll see them in the playoffs next year. I mean, everyone's running their mouth. They're like, oh, well, Colorado's getting lucky, blah, blah. They face our backup goalie. It's like, well, now guess what? He's with Detroit. I think he's not going to do very well. He might do well. I hope so. But it's like, dude, last year, right? We swept you guys 4-0. This year, you guys almost got swept, but we still beat you 4-1, right? So it's like, you guys fucking suck in the playoffs, especially when you face us. Like, you're not going to get very far. I promise you that. And with their record being less than their winning record in the playoffs against the Avalanche is less than 15%. Well, you can kiss our ass too, because then we'll probably beat you next year in the playoffs. So.
Yeah, and Kadri's been a part of a couple different instances. Like he was also involved with that, like the game winner in overtime.
Oh yeah,
against the Lightning with the too many men penalty, where like and like everyone was going off about that, but like didn't Tampa have like the same situation that happened the year prior, like in the bubble with like too many men on the ice and then they won it?
Yeah, year prior, and then that game winning goal. We had too many men. We had 5, but when McKinnon was coming off the ice, and then Tampa Bay actually had 6. So
like it's technically, if you want to say, too many men for both teams.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, dude, you guys can just shut the fuck up, or go fuck right off, because like, and it's so funny is that like I laugh every time I hear like somebody like just like make a dumbass comment when they have no idea like how fast the game really is and how quick you have to get off the ice and get on the ice. There's 3 Tampa Bay players coming down to get in their own zone to, basically try to avoid us scoring a goal, which they didn't. But 3 were on a back check, and 3 were getting off the ice. So it's like, well, what the fuck are you like? What are you looking at? Because obviously, if you want to just point out Colorado specifically, then call the kettle black. Tampa Bay had more guys on the ice than we did, and it's still both just too many men. So yeah, it was. I don't know. It was frustrating. I kind of laughed at it a little bit. And I was gonna make some dumbass comments myself on Twitter, but I refrained from that one. So
Yeah, and like everyone was like, it's the 5 foot line, it's a 5 foot rule, but really, like, what is the 5 foot rule? Everyone goes when it's
right.
when you're at least a decent amount away from the bench, like everyone goes, like it could be like 10 feet sometimes, could be 7 feet, 2 feet. You never know what that line really is.
And dude, like even then, like I heard one of the referees comment on it, and he was like, at the time we didn't make the call because we didn't see it, right? And I kind of like I'm 70-30, like 7% like in their decision and like understanding, because like the game's fast. You can't really like focus on the line change and trying to make a penalty call depending on what zone you're in.
Yeah.
Obviously they go opposite directions in the second period, so just like you have so many different factors. And like, dude, like if you want to blame a referee, go right ahead, but like if he doesn't see it, he doesn't see it, right? And there's so many calls that like we should have had against Edmonton, right? But like I wasn't complaining about it, I wasn't bitching about it. It's a game. Like a referee, one individual that has that power to be in a referee in an NHL game has so much to like focus on, follow the game, follow the puck, follow a battle in the corner, whatever it may be, right? And I don't blame. I mean, like I said, I've never not been a referee guy. Like these fans are like, oh, the referees. Like you have no fucking clue. You've never played the game. Like
You go on the ice and officiate
exactly.
the game.
You get the fuck on the ice if you can even barely stand up, let alone fucking skate. And let's see you go fucking referee a game. How about that? And it's like, if you've never played a high level, a competitive level of hockey, and you're trying to say, oh, the referees are referees, well, let's see you do it. I would love to see you do it. So, but I've never not been a referee. I think referees are doing a fine job. I think they're doing well. Obviously, yes, there's missed calls. I mean, that's with every fucking sport, right? That's NBA, NHL, exactly. NFL's trash. Who cares? But like it happens. You're gonna miss a call, and it is what it is. I mean, does it dictate the game? Sometimes it does. Sometimes it doesn't. But like, you can't blame an individual for missing a call. It's like saying, you're gonna blame somebody for going to their daily 9 to 5 job Monday through Friday, and they miss doing the assignment or they miss doing the task, right? So I do that sometimes, and I'm my worst critic, and I'm like, God, what a fucking idiot! Like, Jesus, what did I do? So, but I mean, it's the same thing, right? Like, that's your job. Like, I can't criticize you for going to your Monday through Friday 9 to 5, and you miss doing something like a simple task or an assignment that your boss gave you, right? Yeah. So I don't know. I think the referees are doing just fine. I think they need to make a couple changes, very small changes, but other than that, I think everything else is in a good direction. So.
Yeah, absolutely. But to cap this episode off, like there's a lot of different NHL style for like different goaltending styles. Like, what have you seen as the most successful styles that you've seen? Like, what's your favorite style that goaltenders play?
It's really hard because like, you look at Vasilevsky, right? And I say this to all my friends, everyone that I'm close with on the ice, off the ice, and they follow the game as close as I do. But you will never find another Russian goalie like Andrei Vasilevsky. He's the best modern day Russian goaltender that we will ever see and witness. And until then, I don't think there will ever be another good Russian goaltender. I think Vasilevsky's it. I think we'll probably have to wait another 5 years, 10 years. Average goaltenders like, Kemper, I think Nedeljkovic could have had a better season. I think Thomas Greiss is kind of over with it. I think Varlamov is at his wit's end. I think Sorokin's going to be the answer for New York. I think Ottinger or Otter with Dallas Stars, I think he's going to be the next call. I think Markstrom with Calgary, he's going to get over it probably after this year. And then Anaheim with Gibson. I think Gibson is either going to get traded or he's going to basically not get anywhere if he stays with Anaheim. So there's a lot of different goalies, a lot of different. I mean, dude, we can run down the list. That's another hour. You know what I mean? But I think with the tandem, as far as look at Linus Allmark and Swayman with Boston. Probably one of the best regular season tandems that we've seen in a while. So, but as far as the goaltending styles, I think obviously the butterfly, the tall goaltenders are starting to understand and realize the tall butterfly look like RVH, VH style, right? And I think tall goaltenders are actually starting to adapt with the butterfly low coverage type of style. And I mean, Vasilevsky did. Look at him. He's a wrecking ball, right? He's a fucking unit. It's gonna be interesting to see because now we get all these new goaltenders coming in, and they're seeing a little bit about all of them, and they're not much like of a butterfly Jonathan Quick type of style. But I don't know. I don't know. I'm very reluctant of seeing how this generation of goaltenders is because they don't look very good. Just put it that way. Make it very short and simple. But hey, if they slap me in the face and they surprise me, then by all means, more power to them. So.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a next fun couple seasons, and just especially going into this year with so many goaltenders probably getting traded or moved at the free agency, and then trade deadline going into the season, and then already a bunch of goalies have been moved as well. Just everyone coming in and being on different teams. It's gonna be a fun season to see how everyone adapts to the season and how everyone does.
Yep, absolutely. And I think right now, a little side note, I think honestly, if you think about it, I think Nashville is kind of going to be struggling with goaltending. I think they're running out with Saros if they don't sign a deal. I don't think Riddick is a good fit with Nashville. I think Winnipeg is going to struggle. Hellebuck is going to be done here in a little bit. They don't really have a solid backup goalie for him. Like I said, Gibson with Anaheim. I'm a big Gibson fan. I think he's got an unreal style. It's very nonchalant, very lackadaisical, but he makes the saves. He makes the big stops. He's a great goaltender. But there's 3 or 4 teams, a handful of teams, at least 5, that I think are going to struggle with goaltending either this season or very, very close to the future of second year, third year going in from this point forward. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely going to be a fun season. It's going to be we're going to have to keep track of the stats and everything going into the next season. Just all the free agencies that's going to be happening. We're going to have to keep up with those stats.
You and me are going to have another podcast, big stat guy podcast.
Yeah, we're going to just have a strictly stats podcast. That's what we're going to do.
If it ain't stats, we don't want to fucking talk to you, all right? You fucking clown.
Exactly. But Aaron, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you again for coming on the show. I really appreciate your time. And I look forward to doing this again.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on again. Busy weekend. Sorry, I had a bunch of shit going on with work and family, and I got a couple games this weekend. So no, I appreciate it, buddy. Till next time, we'll do it again very soon. So
absolutely, I'm looking forward to it.
Appreciate it, but this deal.